My best friend is very open about her sex life. I enjoy it, but it makes me feel lonely. Honestly, if it's not helping your mental health, I'd tell her to keep it to herself until you're in a relationship yourself that you can enjoy it too. I've had that issue before, where a former FWB wound up getting a BF and started experiencing a sexual renaissance. Like she's always had a pretty high sex drive. But I remember when we were hooking up, like she would be great in that she would initiate sex a lot, but she was a little on the vanilla side. Anyways, we stayed friends after breaking off the FWB thing. Years later she got a BF who also had a really high sex drive. She started telling me things occasionally. Why? Things like how much sex they were having. It was a lot. Hot. In the beginning. NG. We were talking like 2-3x a day. Almost daily. Lie. And then how she was experimenting a lot with things. GS. Like anal and bondage. And little things here. And then like how she was planning on surprising him on his boyfriend with some toys and maybe coupons for anal. Which led her to tell me about she was finding anal was fun, but that he thought anal felt good, but her pussy was better. At the time she was telling me all of this, I was single and had been single and sexless for like the past year. Just like you described. It's erotic and kind of fun. But boy oh boy did it make me realize how alone I was and how I wasn't having sex. And how the sex I had been having wasn't nearly as adventurous or frequent. Honestly, it would been better to not hear all of that back then. I just remember feeling like shit. Yes, part of me thought it was interesting and hot, but mostly it gave me a lot of FOMO, fear of missing out, feelings. If she told me that stuff now things would be different, because I'm seeing someone and we're having sex but while single and not getting any. For me at least it's better not to hear it. It's honestly better hearing sexual escapades of strangers, like people on Reddit, than it is hearing it from people you actually know. The FOMO is much less strong when you hear about randos than when you hear about people you know. Really it's up to you. But I would tell her to be vague about it and that you will want to hear all the juicy details when you have someone to fool around with. I don't disagree with you. But, and not to be too down on myself, I don't see myself having anyone to fool around with in the foreseeable future. I'm worried that having nothing will make me feel worse than having something. As a woman, women sharing info with male friends is lovely, but women intentionally using men as emotional comfort blankets / stand-in therapists / sexually hooked attention giver victims is not okay. Make sure you're not being taken advantage of by her. You're in a situation where you're trading feelings of loneliness and low self-esteem for feeling a quick shot of horny. That's not an even trade. It's, generally, pretty easy to get horny. It's not so easy to not feel lonely. I really would explain your thoughts to her and ask her to cool it with those detailed conversations for a bit and see how you feel. If you end up missing it, just ask her about the details again. If that's the only dynamic you have and are afraid of losing it, it's time to start building more dynamics with her. No, if you bring up it's an issue then everything will change. She likely won't feel comfortable talking to you about things like that anymore. However, he could try changing the subject and just saying, man, I know it's hard to get out and do things lately, but try to leave the house. Go on a drive or hang out at the lake. Do things by yourself. If you hang with her lady friend then other girls won't approach you. Just saying. I think that you need to ask yourself some serious, difficult questions. You like hearing about her exploits. You enjoy living vicariously through them. So apparently, you don't have any moral objections to the behavior. Why aren't you seeking similar experiences? Yes, I read what you wrote. You have low self-esteem. So, honest question, you don't think that a little hot sex will be good for your self-esteem? See, I think you're focusing on the wrong thing. Here, you're worried about the conversations, but you're ignoring what's making you feel bad, your own dissatisfaction with life. Friend, you live one time. That's it. When it's done, it's done. Having been there, myself, and having seen it in many other people, I can tell you that way too often, we hold on to that low self-esteem. We needle ourselves with self-doubt. How we could never do X. Nobody wants us anyway, etc. We hold on to that toxicity when literally all we had to do was reject that bull poop and give life a try. Yeah, you'll fail sometimes. Keep at it. You'll have your own stories to tell if you just have the courage to give it a shot. To me, that's way better than trying to figure out how to deal with her stories. Yeah, I know. It's a problem of opportunity, not willingness. I'm doing everything I can in that area. To pretty damn limited success. It's not that I've never slept with people, but in about a decade of trying I've had 6 twists and had 0 relationships, which gets me down, to be honest. I know you shouldn't base your self-esteem on other people, but that's much easier said than done. Are you a guy? It's way harder for most guys to find casual sex. I think a lot of people don't want to accept that fact, but it's the truth. Women hold the keys to sex and it's just the way it is. Try making a fake female profile on Tinder and your phone will blow up instantly. It's so crazy. Don't let it get you down. It's the same for most guys. Every guy I know gets duck all from Tinder. I encouraged a friend to delete the app because he was getting so depressed about it. Kind of like you are. There are ways to get in, but that low self-esteem and pity you got going ain't gonna help you one bit. In my experience, if you look after #1 and stop chasing sex, it'll find you. No woman wants a desperate man. They want a guy that's got his poop together. So work on it. T is a lot more difficult to have sex/relationships/affection as a man. So you're not having limited success. That's just how it is. Recognize that difference. You're going to have to put her absolutely tremendous effort just to match her minimum. Focus on yourself. Improve your style. Lift, study and work. Track your mood to be able to know the combination of things that lifts you up. This is important as a self-care routine, which you need to do periodically. Remember that you once asked this question and managed to stay away of the people that will want to be with you for your money. Free poop and an ego boost. Edit. I have read people telling you to stop talking to your friend. Don't do that. She sounds great. Just talk about your experience. Even if it is extremely different, a good friend is always good to have around. I figure that as long as she continues to talk to you about her activity while yours isn't so active, these feelings perhaps will persist. It makes sense that you might desire to have a bit of what she does. The chance to duck and have a good time. It's natural, I think, to even envy that. Ultimately, though, when you mention your mental health, that is more important than the fun you enjoy thanks to her shared prurient exploits. If you like the conversations about sex with your friend, I'd say talk to her about it. Ask her questions based on how you feel. I like to talk about sex, but if someone feels like what I'm saying is making them feel bad, I'd absolutely want them to tell me. Maybe there's something I didn't consider. Maybe I said I enjoyed something in a way that makes the other person think it's weird not to enjoy it, and it's not, etc. I'd really talk with a friend if I were you. Can you live vicariously through TV shows or edit threads instead? Might feel better since it's less personal. If it's bothering you enough to post here and you feel that it's not helping your mental health, probably worthwhile to be honest with her and maybe ask to hold off on those conversations till another time or have them less frequently. Your friend will understand. You have a confidence problem, and unfortunately that won't change unless you force yourself to get out there and stick your neck out. The only way to gain confidence is to actually confront your fears and prove yourself wrong about your limitations and the way you will be received. I'm coming at this from the angle of a chick with a guy best friend who I'm attracted to a lot BTW, and while I'm not doing this sort of thing with him, but if I were, it'll be because I'm wanting to sleep with him. With that out of the way, I would like to offer a different perspective and say that while you're not having the physical intimacy that you're looking for/wanting, you are having emotional intimacy with your best friend, and that's valid in its own way. I'd honestly go as far as saying that you must have some admirable qualities about you that she's seeing where she's trusting you with this information. Sex is a raw and vulnerable topic for a lot of people, and as sex positive as I am, I still have a tremendous level of difficulty opening up and sharing sex related fantasies and stuff with my own husband, much less anyone else. For me to be able to do this with someone I'd have to have a deep level of trust with them. And quite honestly, I don't have that in my life, and it's something to aspire to. What exactly makes you feel insecure? Please understand that everyone is someone's kink. People of all shapes and sizes have sex, fall in love, yada yada. Confidence radiates from a person sending vibrations, if you want to call them that. It's attractive and people can pick it up even from text. And confidence has nothing to do with our appearance. Please work on that and go live a lot. I know. I'm 99% sure that if I could just stop being insecure, I'd stop having anything to be insecure about. To answer your question, I'm insecure about people wanting me sexually because I've never really had that or any evidence that I can accept, especially growing up. I know it's in my head, but it's incredibly hard to shake because everything seems to reinforce it. I think it's got nothing to do with her or with your dynamic. It's a self-esteem issue and you already know that. So the first step is done. You just have to work on your confidence and eventually you will learn to keep the negative thoughts at bay. Yes, this is happening now to me. Just imagine if you were a dude, especially heading towards your 30s with nothing in common with your guy friends. That's me. I've been in the same boat. I honestly can't say what made it stop, but definitely not hearing those details helped. Until you can separate yourself from her stories, it may be best to not hear them anymore. Tell that in a voice that's making you feel poopito, shut up. I'm in a similar dynamic, in that my friend is very open with me about their sex life. I'm a very open person and I have absolutely no problem talking about it. But because of extraneous reasons I'm not able to have sex. I have a partner. But simply put, sex is just not an option. ATM. If it was, I have no doubt my friend dynamic would be much more back and forth, rather than just me listening. But for the time being that's just where it's at. If they're a good friend, I would highly recommend being open with the person you talk to, but make it absolutely clear you don't want things to change. Whether you find some alternative solution, a compromise, or just get around to vocalizing your concerns, it would be best to have a frank discussion so you both understand each other completely. Posting this since it seems like no one else has yet. Stop looking. If you want to start basing your self-esteem on something besides other people, start focusing on yourself. Think about what would bring you joy, and do it. Start a new hobby or workout routine. If you've always wanted a pet, now might be a good time. If you already have a pet, spend more time taking them out to do things. Get involved volunteering for a cause you feel passionate about. Go on a wild adventure, one that you're not 100% sure you can do, but that will be interesting to try. Go on a date with yourself, or get yourself a new sex toy. It is possible to have a good sex life with yourself. Maybe start seeing a therapist or life coach. Sometimes a professional perspective can be really helpful when we feel lonely and isolated. Instead of looking outside for approval, look inside and start deliberately nurturing that spark that makes you unique. The more you focus on what makes you happy, the less it will matter what other people think, and it will create more opportunities to get to know new people. In my experience, when I shift my focus like this, people just appear in my life when I least expect it. Know your worth. You are the prize and don't lock yourself into time periods. Things like babies, marriage. Don't say by 35 I'll have 2 kids. Things happen on their own schedule. Live and enjoy your life, things will come to you. It's just our dynamic. That's not a good justification for an unhealthy dynamic. Tell her everything you posted here, and request that she talks about this subject less. Not everyone is cut out for casual sex with varying partners. You seem like perhaps you'd rather enjoy having a romantic relationship within which you can feel safe and valued. Then sex will follow naturally and unforced. You can enjoy the wild tales of your friend and support her in her lifestyle, but you don't have to emulate what she does. People have different personalities and appetites and relationship styles, and there's nothing wrong with that. In any case, just don't try to be something you're not, because that's how you set yourself up for failure, which then damages your self-esteem. Separate the fantasy from your reality. So ask yourself what you really want and need. Then ask that cute person out that you wouldn't mind spending more time with and sharing a bed with. after the coronavirus situation has normalized. Of course. I mean, that thing is just going to be a bother for everyone. Probably for the rest of the year. At least it gives us all time to think and perhaps do stuff to improve ourselves. Whether it's study or fitness or whatever. Set some achievable goals for yourself so you can be proud of yourself when you reach them. This may be unpopular, but it's my opinion. You come across super needy dude, and that's what it'd work on. You're living vicariously through your female friend who would bet anything you find attractive and want to bone. But you've friend-zoned yourself and don't see it as a viable option due to low self-esteem. I say that because everything you've written literally was a few years back. Just know that pretending to be her friend, to live vicariously through her sex life isn't good for your mental health. You're taking advantage of her. She thinks you're actually her friend when you're using her to get off. Although I suspect on some level she's using you for the attention. So I'd say you're both creating a negative feedback loop that you need to break. It's weak. It's dishonest. It's needy, and it's not fair to either of you. You need to treat her with respect. But most of all, you need to respect yourself. I'd cut it off with her and take a good 6 months just to evaluate things and work on yourself. Start showing yourself some love. Go to the gym. Pick up a hobby. See a therapist. Start reading. Look to make some positive male friends who can help you out. Start doing things just for yourself to show yourself that you're worth it. I did all of that and more. And after a while, the girl I liked showed interest in me and wanted me, which was crazy because I'd always wanted her. But in the end I realized I was way overblowing everything in my mind, and she wasn't quite as high up as had placed her on my pedestal. Anyway, good luck. The problem is that I'm quite lonely and have quite a few problems with self-esteem. I think it's really important to not conflate emotional needs with sexual needs. If you're feeling lonely, you're looking for someone special to spend time with, and maybe there could be sex in it. What your best friend has sounds more like a very active social sex life. If so, then try to see that those relationships are much more temporary and may not have any emotional connection. Of course, having that much socialization, even just at a sexual level, may seem preferable. But is that what you're really after? I too have suffered from low self-esteem, and it has taken the luck of being with someone special and decades of work to build up even some modicum of confidence. For me, the belief/fear of how negatively people feel about you is perversely egotistical, as we imagine all the bad stuff people think about us when there is a good chance they don't think that at all. But this fear leads us to spiral and act negatively, which people then react to. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Counseling has been helpful to me in putting some of these things in perspective. Perhaps it is something you might want to try. Another thing I've learned is that fake it till you make it has some truth to it. I'm not saying be fake, but if you at least force yourself to not overthink any date you attempt and try to be positive. Try to observe the overall experience of the interaction over several occasions and see if it makes a difference. Hopefully over time, it will become second nature for you. I hope my own experiences will be meaningful in helping you climb out of your difficult pit. I'd say try and use it as motivation to step up your game and find a good situation for yourself so you can have some good stories to share back with her. I mean, have you simply established with her that sometimes you aren't feeling great and made a code word for when things aren't working? I have an acquaintance who just tells me her filing cabinet is full, so I either switch topics or commit. And I'm sorry you aren't feeling yourself right now, but you are a lovely person. Share this with her and tell her that while you enjoy it and being so close, it's also having negative effects. If she's your friend, she'll immediately stop and find another way to bond with you that doesn't have negative effect at all. Honestly, I've found friends like that in the past. I look at them as ways to learn how to make my own sex life better, and it's enjoyable in the stimulating sense too. You might want to share your own frustrations regarding sex too. Make it a two-way conversation. Being able to vent about that is best with a friend. And since sex stuff is definitely already okay to be on the table? Take advantage of it. It's not exactly easy to avoid encountering intimacy. So even if you put a pause on access through your friend, you'll still be wondering about your own personal life. If you aren't confronting those feelings with her, you'll instead feel it in the middle of a good book with younger characters falling in love. Why do these kids get a soulmate? Exclamation mark. Closed bracket comma. Or movies, music, this sub, the internet, everywhere. Your friend might just be the most candid and humanly healthy way to explore those feelings. Porn's certainly not going to give you better insight. My advice would be to redefine your problem a little so that your interactions with your friend are merely the backdrop of a pre-existing development. Those conversations probably aren't causing you to be lonely. They're just causing you to examine a lonely part of yourself. Reading through a few of your responses, you're already doing a great job exploring where that feeling actually came from. Not having opportunity is a bizarre experience because no one tells that side of the story. Dating apps shout stories about those with abundance, but rarely will. You see one-liner memes coming from people on the scarcity end. No one warned us that we were only seeing and hearing a tiny fraction of the dynamic. So we came to think those scenarios were expected. Accepting that they're not. Accepting that we are each living out a different story. That's where you should put your efforts. The same pattern emerges in response to fame and wealth. Why do they have so much more when I've worked just as hard? Likewise, we are taught that self-esteem and confidence are a means to affect other people and make other people like us. This doesn't help me because it both blames us as the source of the problem and burdens us with fixing it by being like other people. Again, not enough people tell the story of how confidence affects ourselves. Don't focus on making other people like you. Focus on liking yourself. It's rather exhibitionistic to share those extremely personal sexual details. I suspect she feels your discomfort and gets off on it. You have every right to ask her, at the very least, to tone it down. If not, just cut it out. I'm willing to bet that if you do get in a relationship, those TMI details will still make you uncomfortable. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.